Well, good afternoon. It's martini time again. It just comes around so quickly. So, we shall ask our frog to dive into the pond of the unconscious and come up with an idea, a treasure, an insight. So what can we talk about today, this evening? Well, I went to the dump. We have, out here in the rural countryside, there's a landfill, a big landfill, and you can go to the dump. It's quite an adventure. You accumulate stuff in the backyard. We have a couple of little barns, little sheds, and so I accumulate a pile, and then I ask a friend to come over with his truck, and we load it up and we go to the dump. And you have to go through a threshold guardian. That's the fat little guy who weighs everything and tells you where to dump your stuff. And but before going to the dump, I had to load my truck, and so I had to accumulated some things. We had an old grill that the inside was burnt out, and you had to replace everything. So I was just going to throw it away. And several people asked me if they could have it, and I warned them, or I showed it to them, and they decided it wasn't worth the effort. So it was going to the dump, and so usually in my barn, if I have something in there that I move around and cuss at for about 5 years, I think it's eligible for the dump. So I put a box that I'd been spilling and cussing at for years, and I put that with the pile. And while my friend was coming with the truck, miraculously, my wife came out and said, "Oh, I've been looking for those." It was a box of some old thread. And so she took it back and put it on the back porch. And I just had to laugh because it was so, the timing was impeccable. See, our marriage is like the ocean. I've been married for 57 years. And so there's an incoming tide and there's an outgoing tide. And all marriages have this combination or contains two tides. There are going to be two forces that play against each other. This is what makes up a marriage. A marriage doesn't go all like that. There's always going to be this play of opposite forces. And so it's like the ocean. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. And so I'm an outgoing tide, and my wife is an incoming tide. So if I see horizontal space, my tidal force is to keep the space open. Outgoing, I get rid of stuff. My wife's inclination is incoming. Put stuff on the space. Okay, save it. You need it for a better day. Both tides have value, but both tides have their opposite. So even a tide has a plus and a back, you see. So if the outgoing tide, which is I am, throw it out, carried to its logical extreme, I'd live in a bare room with a bowl. And my wife's incoming tide, carried to its logical extreme, would be there was no place to move in the house. So the marriage, all of our marriages, is that balance between the two tides. Whatever they are, there's going to be two tides. And the only way to deal with this, the only way to stay married for 57 years is to play in the tide like kids. So it's fun to play in the tide. So I really, so when her timing was impeccable and she found the box, and now it's on the back porch. It used to be out in the barn. Now it's on the back porch, and every time I go out, it taunts me. It says, "Ha ha, you can't throw me out." So it'll be there for a few years, and then we'll see where it goes. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that how glorious marriage is as a container of the tides, of two opposite forces. And when they play together, it's creative and it's joyous. And it can be frustrating and you can get mad and do all that stuff, But in the end, it's the play of the cosmic tides of life, whatever form they take. And that's what makes up a marriage. A marriage, if it didn't have any tides in it, it'd be boring. It would be perfect. And perfection is no movement. Perfection, tides move and stir things up like this, and you get the movement of the tides, of the warp and the weave, and the waxing and the waning, and the tidal flows. You see, that's life. And without that, there would be no change. It would be perfect. You see, perfect means no change. Everything is fixed. Boom, stop. It's perfect. Don't move. We walk into a room. Oh, that's perfect. Don't do a thing. We always say when somebody says perfect, it means don't change it. Well, that if we had to live with that, you see, it would be impossible. You can't live without change. You can't live without the tides flowing, ebbing, and flowing, you see. Isn't that wonderful, you see? And to appreciate that, to find the balance point, to find the edge of the water where you make sandcastles is where children live. And we go to the beach. We were just down to Hatteras, and when you go to the beach, that's where we like to walk, right where the incoming and the outgoing tide meet, you see, right on the edge, of the balance. It's ground zero. But ground zero is always moving, you see. You can't, it's like a laser dot that the cat chases after. It's always moving. So marriages are a balance of movement. Marriages are a balance of giving and taking. Marriages are a dance, you see. And that dance is joyous when it becomes fun and when it becomes acceptable, or when you can accept that it's an exchange of forces and tides, you see. And one tide doesn't say, it's all got to be incoming, no outgoing. Or it's all got to be outgoing, no incoming. This is like what's happened to Congress. Congress was designed by the Founding Fathers to be a flow of tides, left and right. They flow, they meet, they exchange, they compete, but they come up with a new single idea that would be a law, a compromise, and it would reinvent America. So the coming together of the two tides creates a new world, a new idea, a new love, a new joy. You see, it all comes out of the competition of the two tides meeting and creating a new whole in which they're unified. You see, that's what babies are. Babies are the two tides of the parents in a new being. So Congress just killed the filibuster, which was one of the ways in which the tides compromised. So we watched, coming back from the beach, and I talked about this the other night, the musical poetry of Hamilton, which was about two founding individuals, Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton. They were two opposite tides, and they could not create a new idea. So they had a duel, and Burr shot Hamilton. So that ends competition. That ends the tide, when one tide has to be the only tide, and it shoots the other tide. So when they ended the filibuster today, that ended another aspect of the play of left and right, and now it becomes winning at all costs. So one tide wants to be the only tide, and it'll shoot the other side in order to win, you see. And that when that joy of the give and take and of politics ends, then it becomes a duel. And when it becomes a duel, the system was not designed for that. The system was designed for this play of opposites, a game. And marriage is like that. When marriage becomes a duel, it ends. But when it remains as play, the play of opposites, the fun of opposites, the game of opposites, then it persists. And may I hope you're married for 57 years.